Okay, here's my 3 tips to making sound go well in the church. The first one is to remember that making great sound isn't just about what you do up here, it's also about what the musicians do. So one way you can really affect the sound is by giving really constructive comments to the people doing music or the people speaking. And the most common one that you need to give them is about their level, in the sense that most of the instruments that they play make noise in the room on their own. They don't, you might amplify them a bit, but those drums, they make sound on their own. So often the commentary you need to give them is whether some of those instruments, whether they need to play them louder or they need to play them softer to work. So for example, with drums, it's a fairly loud instrument, and if anything, sometimes we have to remind the drummers that they have to play a bit more softly so that it makes it sound good in the room. It's not always that way. Sometimes you have somebody playing piano and it's just, compared to the other instruments, they're just not playing it loud enough that you can even pick it up. So giving that commentary back to the musicians is really, really important, and as a sound tech you should feel comfortable that you can do that, you're allowed to do it, and they want to hear it. Just make it constructive and don't yell at them and call them mean people. Tip number 2, when you're coming to mix sound, I always like to say, even if, let's say you're using 12 channels, you have all this stuff going on, start with what I call, start with 2s, start with 3s, start with 4s. So when you're in practice, you've got all their monitor mix, so they're all fine, it doesn't matter what's happening to the main mix. Instead of getting everything up, try just getting, let's say, the acoustic guitar and the bass. And just play with those levels until you kind of get it and go, yeah, that sounds good. Then just kind of remember that in your head and take it down. Then maybe you kind of get the 3 female singers, let's say. Oh, yeah, okay, that mix really sounds good in the female singers. Then maybe you write that or remember it and take it down. Because remember, you can't mute them, because if you mute them, they don't have them in the monitors either. Then maybe you go, I want to get just the lead singer with the bass and acoustic guitar to sound right. Okay, and then you fiddle. Then you kind of get an idea for how all these things relate together. Then make your overall mix. It's so much easier to know the relationships in between these individual instruments and combinations and get a sense for those before you try to build the whole mix. It gets you used to those sounds. So start with less and then add up more. The more things you have going through the sound system, the more important it is to do that, or the more helpful that step will be. The last one is don't stay up here. Make sure every morning you do sound, or especially if you come to a rehearsal, go and check the sound downstairs. The sound does not sound the same downstairs as it does upstairs, or even other places upstairs. After you've done sound for a while, you'll really get a sense for what the room sounds like, but make sure you do that when you're starting out. Also, don't just do it when you're in practice. During the service, go down one time and listen to a song downstairs, because with people in the room, it changes the sound. For example, I tend to find in this church that the voices, to sound right downstairs, need to be maybe a bit too loud upstairs. So I kind of make the compromise that I make it a bit louder than I'd like upstairs for the voices, but that makes it really good downstairs. So going up and downstairs and getting used to those sounds are really, really important for you to do a good mix for the church. And that's it.